In other news now, the South African Human Rights Commission in Limpopo conducted hearings this week to probe issues into bullying, corporal punishment and sexual relations between teachers and learners in schools. The hearings were prompted by the recent escalation of bullying and sexual assault allegations in schools, for which one of the cases involves a bullying incident of 15-year-old Lufuno Mavunga, who was bullied by a pupil and subsequently took her own life. The commission heard how a 50-year-old teacher was allegedly in a relationship with a 17-year-old student, and previously an NGO with Commission of Gender Equality in the province heard how a grade 3 and 4 learner explained how a chalkboard in the classroom can lead to sexual violence, detailing how a teacher would lift them up to reach the chalkboard while also fondling their private parts. The Human Rights Commission has requested full details of the affected schools and said it will follow up on the cases to expand and get more information. We speak to South African Human Rights Commission representative in Limpopo, Victor Mabidula, and to give some perspective on what should be done in instances such as these in attempts to protect learners or even help them through the trauma, is Clinical Services Director of the Teddy Bear Clinic, Dr. Shahida Amar. A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for joining us on the show. Really, really heart-wrenching to learn of these cases and listen to the details of how children who should be protected in schools are abused and victimized. Victor, I'd like to start with you just to talk us through your analysis of the week as you've been hearing and learning of these cases and building up towards them. Right, I'm not sure if Victor can hear us, but perhaps let me turn my...
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, you can. Okay, just give us some insight on some of the highlights of the week when it comes to this matter.
Thank you very much. Indeed, we had a hearing from the 18th to the 20th of May. What regard the hearing is that after the death of our learner, Lufuno Mavunga, we went to Mbiri Secondary School and also called the public to submit cases of that what they've experienced, cases of bullying that they have experienced. We realized that the situation is worse than what we thought. Then we also decided that if we deal with these cases in piecemeal, we won't be able to get to the bottom of these issues. That is the reason why we decided to go for hearing, where we called all the stakeholders, all the relevant stakeholders to come and appear before the commission and give evidence. Indeed, the evidence that we revealed during a preliminary investigation was shocking, and even during the hearing, there were a lot of confession and there were a lot of information from the stakeholders regarding bullying, and it shows us that the problem is very big and need to be attended immediately, because it's clear that our children are not safe in our schools.
Now, Dr. Amar, as we listen in and, of course, take the focus to the Lufuno matter, which really sent shockwaves across the country, we also know that there is some evidence that shows that those who are affected during a fighting incident like that, a bullying incident, the bystanders are also affected in some form or the other just by viewing the attack.
Indeed, Impo, I think we need to appreciate and recognize that it's not only direct victims, but indirect victims who may be affected and who may, suffer long-term side effects as a result of that, because the indirect victims also feel helpless, hopeless, defenseless, and are absolutely powerless, and they are also affected by the power dynamic of the educator, because often there's subtle coercion or intimidation or threats, and of course fear of the academic results being affected. So this certainly would affect the whole school community, both victims and indirect victims, people that have heard about it, have witnessed it, or have seen something inappropriate, and that certainly would affect their trajectory as well in terms of trust issues, not being able to feel safe with an educator, because what we are seeing that instead of being, schools being a place of education, safety, security, opportunities for growth and development, we are finding on the contrary, that children are feeling afraid. The anxieties are escalating going to school. And this is indeed a worrying situation if we're looking at our future leaders of tomorrow.
Victor, Dr. Amar speaks about the anxieties escalating and learners going to school really not sure of their safety. You've spoken about how you discovered a lot more when it comes to the Lufuno matter. There's also stories of how a 50-year-old teacher was allegedly in a relationship with a 17-year-old pupil, and another of a chalkboard in the classroom leading to sexual violence. The horrors of something like that, really, parents who are thinking that they're leaving their children in safe environments are now learning more and more that the environments are not as safe as they should be. Talk us through some of those cases that you're eyeing.
One of the cases that the one for 17-year-old, we received information, but to our surprise, the information was already shared with we're informed that the information was shared with the principal a long time ago when the incident happened, but the principal failed to attend to the matter. And when it was brought to us, the person who brought the information to us was also uncertain with regard to whether the Human Rights Commission will assist, because this person indicated to us that I've been going around trying to share this information, but no one is listening to me. That is also a failure in our system, because if learners are coming out and say, I've been victimized, instead of us attending to the matter, we started making mockery out of the situation, sometimes saying that you are exposing yourself to this situation. We don't give them necessary support. And I think that is the reason why learners are now reluctant to bring these matters to us as the parents, to us as the officials, and also teachers. So it left the learners frustrated. This also, the issue of anxiety in the school, it was also confirmed during the hearing by the clinical psychologist from the Department of Health, who indicated that what is happening at Mbiri Secondary School is that learners are under pressure simply because they are expected to produce good results, more especially from the parents also. And from the school, she said that there's a lot of pressure to the learners. And also that when they report the case of bullying or sexual harassment, the school or the principal does not take those cases serious, and it frustrates them because they are expected only to focus on studying books, nothing else. You can't even talk about your well-being as a learner or the situation that we are facing. What you're expected to do is just to focus on producing good results, nothing else. So that also put pressure on the learners. The other incident of the old teacher who tried to assist a learner to reach out to the chalkboard and also fondling the learner, we are going to request more details on the matter and start investigation. But there is another matter that we have been informed by South African Principals Association presenter, that we have currently having a case somewhere in Bembe here, I won't mention the school, where the school governing body, the teacher, the learner, where the teacher confessed that I'm dating a learner, but this matter has not been reported to the Department of Education. The SGB, together with the principal, they're trying to resolve this matter somewhere else. But we don't understand, because the law is very clear. I think I understand that we might have social ills. We might blame the parents, not that they're not playing their part and all those things. But people need to understand that when everything else fails, law must kick in. It means that we can't blame the parents if the law is not being implemented to the fullest. We can't blame anyone if policies of the department are not being implemented. I think we can only start blaming other stakeholders if the Department of Education is implementing the policies. But if they are failing, that is the root cause of the problem. We can't start anyway. We start with the implementation of the law. Let us make sure that the department implement the law and the policies as they are. And the last thing that we have discovered is that it's like when we talk about the Children Act, it only benefits a child when the child is suffering outside the school system or the education system. But when you are in the education system, you are no longer regarded as a child. You are regarded as a learner. But our understanding is that the child is a learner, the learner is also a child. It means that if somebody is abusing the child in the school premises, that person must be reported to the police. Why are we not doing that? Because if you abuse a child will remain a child, whether at school or outside the school. Why are we not reporting in terms of the Children Act? These cases must be reported to the police because the law calls that we must report them.
Dr. Omar, the policies and procedures are there, as Victor mentions, but those who know about them are very often the perpetrators and not the victims. What needs to be done here to reinforce this information and perhaps inform the learners that by a mere touch, before things even get worse, that is not allowed?
So, Impo, I think you've hit a very critical chord here. We know that a lot of awareness raising is being provided at schools across South Africa. Our organization also provides a safe program where we speak specifically to learners about safe and unsafe touches, acceptable and unacceptable behaviors, and their rights and responsibilities, and where to report and how to report. But as Victor has indicated, I think this is often suppressed because learners, when they come forward, often are not believed. There's disbelief, or they put down and to say, don't talk about Mr. X like that. He's one of our best maths teachers. So it's the kind of responses that we are getting from school officials, from the institutions. And I think that is something that needs to be taken to task, because children are aware of their rights. It's not that they're not aware, and they know what is, inappropriate touches, and they feel not only a sense of discomfort, but they're stressed, they're victimized, and they suffer trauma. But nobody's there that, to reach out and assist timelessly, adequately, and appropriately. However, in response to what you're saying, that we need to also ensure that school governing bodies, that SACE, that the DBE, all need to work together. Because if we want to make a difference, we need to ensure that appropriate consequences will follow, where educators, supporting staff, whoever it may be, will learn that appropriate measures will be taken and enforced, and that they will have to face severe consequences. So we also need to ensure that stringent vetting and screening and ongoing screening needs to be done, not just once a year or once in the career of the educator. And children need to be supported, because often children are not believed, and that is what prevents children from not coming forward. Or if they have seen that a learner has come forward and the response that has been received is going to deter them and prevent them from coming forward to say, what for? Nothing is going to happen, and we'll have to continue suffering. And what we are seeing is this masses or mass children or groups of children who have actually been silenced. Children continue to be hurt, and they are not being heard. And that is what we need to do. We need to look out for the signs and symptoms. So that is something else that we also need to continue educating our educators. What are the signs and symptoms of abuse? When children manifest problematic behaviors or challenging behaviors, what are they saying? What are they actually trying to say? They're crying out for help, and one needs to actually be aware of that and report that to the HOD, to the relevant officials within the school system. Victor did say that we have the best policies, protocols in place. It's the implementation and the lack thereof ensuring that there's a follow-through in supporting our learners. There are lots of material, promotional material. Section 27 have printed absolutely beautiful books. I know we have given some contribution to that, where my educator hurt me or an adult hurt me, so that children can reinforce that knowledge and realize that they can reach out for help should they require any kind of support. They also need to know that there are helplines, toll-free lines, 24-hour facilities that can assist and support them through this process. But we also need to educate the parents, the caregivers, on looking out for signs and symptoms and communicating with their children and listening to their children, deep, active listening, that, if the child is saying something, they need to actually sit down and understand what is the child, saying or expressing, so that they can respond appropriately. Absolutely. So this is a systemic response. It's not a quick fix, but a multi-level response to protecting children and ensuring that they are heard.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Let me thank you both for your time.